Yes, 7th class. Now, again, we are going to start our chapter that is the Delhi Sultans. So, today we are going to discuss the administration under the Khaljis and the Tughlaqs. So, the consolidation of a kingdom as vast as the Delhi Sultanate needed reliable governors and administrators. Rather than appointing aristocrats and landed chieftains as the governors, the Delhi sultans, especially Iltutmish, favored their special slaves, purchased for military service, called Bandagan in Persian. They were carefully trained to man some of the most important political offices in the kingdom. Since they are totally dependent upon their master, the Sultan could trust and rely upon them. Yes, my dear students, as we know, they were having some honest person with them, and definitely they totally rely on them, because the people, those who work under the rulers, they show their faith against them. So the Khaljis and Tughlaqs continue to use Bandegan uh, and also raise people of humble birth. They were often their clients. So here I want to discuss one thing with you, that even they were having slaves at that time. They were having the honest person with them, but after their death, the next ruler, they would not rely on the same person, those who were the honest person of the previous ruler. So they keep on changing their slaves because they didn't rely on the other person's slaves. So that's why uh, the slaves and clients were loyal to their masters and patrons but not to their hearers. So hearer means those who came as a next king after the death of their father or maybe the grandfather. So they were not the new rulers, they wanted to adopt some new slaves as the honest person. So, the patronage these humble people by the Delhi Sultans also shocked many of the elites, and the authors of Persian Tuareg criticized the Delhi Sultan for appointing the low and base born to high offices. That means that even the some of the authors, they criticize the mentality of the rulers, those who were having at that time, that they have to adopt or appoint some new slaves in the place of old ones. And the earlier sultans like Khaljis and Tughlaqs, they were the rulers of monarchs. I'm just highlighting the word, the monarch. Monarch means the people, those who have the hereditary system, or you can say the first the rulers, they rule over the kingdom, and after that the heir of the ruler, they ruled over the kingdom. Means the main powers, they were in the hand of the king, or king was appointed as the head of the state. All the powers, all the major powers, you can say, they were in the hands of kings. And definitely after their death, their heir became the new king. So everybody have to be reliable or have to be honest for the king, and all the ministers, they follow the orders of the rules rulers. So at that time, the main source of income was the revenue. So land was called as the uh, iktas, and the landholder was called as the iktedar or mukti. The duty of the mukti was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their iktas. So two work they were doing, the iktedars. First, they maintain law and order. Second thing, they also lead the military. So in exchange of their military service, so they provide their military or the army person to the rulers at the time of war or at the time of need. So Muktis collected the revenue as their assignment and their salary. Means they collected the revenue. It means at the part of their job. They also paid their soldiers from these revenue. Control over the Muktis was most effective if their offices was not inheritable, so they were assigned iktas for a short period of time and from being shifted. For the short period of time, they have given the lands to them. Mean that they have granted the lands to them for a short period of time. So why here the question arises, why they have given the land to their ministers or the iktedas for short period of time? So they didn't become powerful for this purpose because they were having the military power, they were having the money also. So at some times they also stand against the ruler with their power and wealth. Accountants were appointed by the states to check the amount of revenue collected by the muktis. So at that time the accountants were also there who check the each and everything given and deposited by the iqtidars. As the Delhi sultans brought the hinterland of the cities under their control, they forced the landed chieftains, the Samanta aristocrats, and rich landlords to accept their authority. Under Alauddin Khilji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its control. The rights of the local chieftains to levy taxes were cancelled and they were also forced to pay taxes. Means under that rule, the Sultan himself they collected the revenue and they also dissolved the post of the chieftains to collect the taxes. The Sultan's administrator measured the land and kept careful accounts. Some of the old chieftains and landlords served the Sultanate as revenue collectors and assessors. So, because the Sultan was very careful, so the every people they were just were loyal to the king and they were accessible to the king. Means they collected the revenue easily and deposited it to Sultan. At that time, three types of taxes were there. One on cultivation, that is called kharaj. That was a 50% of the peasants' produce. Second was on cattle. And third was on houses. So three types of taxes we are having. On agriculture, first one, agriculture. Second one, cattle. Third one, houses. So these three areas were divided by the king to give the revenue. And for agriculture, they have deposited the 50% of their produce to the king. It is also important to remember that large part of the subcontinent remained outside the control of the Delhi sultans. It was difficult to control the different provinces or the distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi and soon after annexing the southern India. The entire region became independent. Even in the Gangetic plain, there were forested areas. So it was not possible while living in Delhi, the sultans they were able to control the other areas. Sultanate forces could not penetrate, local chieftains established their rule in their regions. Some rulers like Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad Tughlaq could force their control in these areas but only for a short duration, as they were not able to go for a long distances or you can say for a different places, so they able to maintain the army forces up to there. And because it was okay that Delhi was the centrally located at that time, but still because the less of the transportation system at that time, they were not able to move out at the different places for the next of the war or you can say the expeditions. So the Mongols under Genghis Khan invaded Transylvania in northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after. Mongol attacks on the Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khilji and in the early years of Muhammad Tughlaq rule. This forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge. So at that time, the people or the sultans, the sultans, they were in the habit of maintaining the large army, because every time they try to control over the others area to maintain the power and wealth. So let us see how the two sultans they dealt with this. So this is a comparison shown here. So Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad Tughlaq, and many of the Tughlaq different things they were introduced by the Muhammad bin Tughlaq that we will discuss in our next chapter. Up to that, you will just read once the differentiation between the Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad Tughlaq rule. And tomorrow we will going to discuss some of the new tricks introduced by the Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So that is all for the day, and next we will do in our next video.